Did I ever tell you of the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No, you did not, actually.
There's something about creating life. He stole the idea from two Force-using witches.
And those were Abbott and Costello. Anyway, guys, welcome to the pod. No. Are we going to start like that?
Yes.
Cinematic Fantastic.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
I'll show you who I am and what I am.
Bitten by a werewolf and lives, becomes a werewolf himself.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Weatherford.
And your other host, William Weatherford.
Get ready for opinions, dad jokes,
and bad jokes
as we watch and review sci-fi and fantasy films from the classics of yesteryear to the new favorites of today.
Welcome to the House of Frankenstein. Stay a while. Tonight's movie is House of Frankenstein, 1944 film.
Yeah, dang it. Just right into it. Just right into it.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what this movie really is right into it. And we'll discuss that further as we get along.
It doesn't, look, my opinion, it doesn't get quite right into it until 30 minutes in, which you'll see. That's my theory on it. But movie came out in 1944, started filming earlier in 44, but came out, I think, in December of 44. So
it's technically a 1945 picture if you really think about it.
Well, if they kept it going.
And then even still, there are separate categories often on Wikipedia articles for movies that say that a movie came out in Broadway, the Hollywood Theater in New York, separately from the rest of the United States.
Yeah. That's where they premiere a lot of stuff.
So they are technically like movies that will be like December 1941, and it's a 1942 movie.
That's how they roll. All right, so this movie is alternately known as a Monster Rally movie, which that sounds like a Mario Kart clone. A Monster Rally movie or Monster Mash movie, because there was a song called the Monster Mash, which has all the monsters kind of listed in it, and the guy singing it kind of sounds like Boris Karloff. We've talked about this movie, I think, way back in the day in one of our
This movie does have Boris Karloff in it.
It does, yay! The return of Boris Karloff. You get to see him again. I know you've been, just kind of going, "Where's Boris? Where's Boris?" Here he is. Boris famously called this in some interviews later. He called it a monster clam bake. He did say that he would never play Frankenstein's monster again after Son of Frankenstein.
Where is clam chowder most popularly eaten in America?
Are you asking ChatGPT right now?
No. I'm trying to ask you.
ChatJPW. Okay.
I'm the one asking. Why would I be the W?
Oh, I'd say Maine.
So do you think that Boris Karloff came from Maine?
No. I think
I was going to ask if it was it's an awfully British thing to do, but I'm like, where was clam chowder?
A clam bake is a party. So clam chowder, I think, would be a very Maine thing.
Yeah, it's the main thing you put in a clam bake party.
Yeah. Frankly, I think that he had felt that Frankenstein's monster had lost a lot of its edge. And I have to agree with him. I mean, you're like, everybody's playing him now. And he's just this lumbering oaf-like figure, kind of devoid of
You make me want to talk about the end of this movie really badly. Well, I will refrain unless you wish me to right now.
No.
Talk about the end of this movie.
Let's not talk about the end yet. I will say this. What Boris Karloff brings to Frankenstein's monster is emotion. And what literary people would call pathos. Do you feel for him? Do you care? is there? Yeah, and I would say in the Boris Karloff trilogy, I would say would be Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Son of Frankenstein. And then
Though there's been none better than the novel.
No, there
none
hasn't.
better than the novel in that period.
Some modern movies have tried because they wanted to do something more like the book, and they've tried.
But since I haven't seen those, I will not say they'd never have ever done it in the history of Frankenstein. But it's probably a safe thing to assume.
Safe bet.
It's a safe bet that the novel is the best version of Frankenstein in terms of
what monster,
pathos.
What creatures that we've seen? What characters have we seen before that we see in this? We see Dracula or form of Dracula. It's not Bela Lugosi's Dracula. It's John Carradine's. I think the first appearance of John Carradine's Dracula. It's got Frankenstein's monster. It's got Larry Talbot, aka the Wolfman,
which puts into question the canonicity of this film in comparison to Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, because they mention events that happened in this film.
Yes, it is
with a different actor as Frankenstein.
Yes, but you kind of have to think of this. The James Bond movies have tried to keep a canonicity, and they had different actors, and they kind of acted like it was all the same James Bond. So I think
although in truth there were two James Bonds, and that would be Daniel Craig.
And Sean Connery?
Sean Connery.
Are those the two for you? Those are your two?
Would you beg to differ, however?
Strangely enough, I do like Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, because I kind of grew up with him in the 90s. Okay, there weren't any James Bond movies to go see for me as a young man. And then you got two movies with... oh my goodness! I can't remember his name. He only played James Bond twice. It was in The Living Daylights and License to Kill. And I'm totally gonna be in trouble for not remembering his name.
It's okay. There are like 20 movies of those.
Timothy Dalton. Thank you, brain. Thank you. I put somebody smart put their brain into my skull like Frankenstein style.
Still can't remember the actor for Iron Man on the top of my head for some reason.
RDJ? Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr.
Bob?
Just for some reason,
he's been called
last
Bob
episode, and then just now, I cannot recall his name except for Jr.
Didn't you say
I'm disappointed in myself.
The word.
I
no,
should.
It's okay. The word Adam Sandler, I think, popped into your mouth, and you were like, Adam Sandler is Iron Man. Yeah,
maybe like the Sandlot movie.
I am Iron Man. What is? I cannot do a good Adam Sandler. It's like, I'm Iron Man.
Which Adam Sandler are you doing though?
Oh, that's kind of water. That's a little bit of water. That's kind of like Waterboy. That's a little bit of.
Which, by the way, was the movie I forgot last time.
It's very.
We were talking about Adam Sandler. I was like, "There's 3 movies that come to mind."
Forget it.
One of which I forgot the name of.
You can totally forget it. You can do it. Yeah, somebody who's seen that movie will understand what that means. Anyway,
I may not be the wisest of men, but I do know what Boris Karloff means.
That's Forrest Gump. Okay, so the what most people consider the Monster Mash or Monster Rally movies would be House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula, but some people would even say that it began with Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, because that they start mashing them together, and then the last Monster Mash movie we're ever probably going to see, or Rally movie, would be Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. And I don't know how canonical that is, because it does have Bela Lugosi back as Dracula. I don't know. Maybe he's shape-shifting. Who knows in this movie. But this movie is directed by Earl Kenton. And Earl Kenton directed Ghost of Frankenstein. He directed House of Dracula, which we'll see in a couple more movies later. We've got some mummy movies coming up. If you wanted to really hammer the nail into the coffin of the Mummy franchise,
you would go for the Hammer movies later on.
Look,
because that would literally be hammering in the monster franchise.
The Hammer movies are a different thing altogether. I'm talking about the Universal stuff. You would not see a Universal Mummy.
Yeah. I'm being a bit punny.
Yeah, you are. Until 1999, the Universal's The Mummy reboot that came out. I would say that the Mummy gets largely forgotten after those two movies, probably for good reason, which we'll find out, hopefully. So what did he also... Oh, he did direct something that you and I really enjoyed, which was The Island of Lost Souls. But that was early in his career. That was the Dr. Moreau, H.G. Wells story from season 1, season 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was decent. It didn't have much huma huma nuku nuku applause in it, though.
You love that fish. You love bringing up that fish. That's like our...
that's my favorite moment of the episode.
Is that
just
our
go back to when we were just talking about the huma huma nuku nuku applause.
You did it!
In detail.
Good job. Good job.
I did it twice, in fact.
Okay, so I wanted to ask your opinion real quick. So which title do you like better for this movie? The Devil's Brood or House of Frankenstein? Which one do you think works better? Because The Devil's Brood was the original title. It's a little 19...
It's got the name brand, but then again, we don't have much of the name brand
There's
in the
no
film.
devils.
Because technically, Frankenstein is actually Frankenstein's monster, right? That's right. The actual thing that people confuse. So technically, we have the monster, Dr. Neiman, Daniel, Dracula,
yes,
Lawrence Talbot. There's no Frankenstein.
Right.
So
it's Frankenstein's monster.
Technically, it is false advertising.
Well, let's put it's House of Frankenstein, as in Dr. Frankenstein, which they spend maybe 5 minutes in the House of Frankenstein. When we go over the plot later, you're definitely you're gonna probably
I will say the last 5 minutes were where all of the conflict happened. Everywhere else is just a build up, which means there's a whole hour that's just build up.
55 minutes, I would say. Yeah, 55
it's an hour.
Minutes with 5 minutes
This is a 70-hour film.
This movie did make more money than the Invisible Man's
Which then you would
Revenge.
be saying is a 15-minute conflict.
Do you remember that movie we reviewed recently, The Invisible Man's Revenge? This movie did make more money than it. Before we go over some of the production details about this and then some of the cast, this movie had a big budget. It was like $300,000 plus, $300,000 plus. And the critics just destroyed it. They said it was too silly to be scary. It was, they didn't know whether to laugh or it wasn't shocking enough to scare you and kind of funny and for all the wrong reasons. I don't know if I quite agree with that, but the people really liked it. There was one point where they started showing it every hour, almost every hour on the hour. They probably had to give it 30 minutes to kind of, back the.
I think it just has. It has the. Forgot his name. The writer.
Edward Lowe of this film.
Was that the writer?
Screenwriter. I mean, the story was by Kurt Siodmak.
Yeah, Kurt Siodmak.
Yeah.
It has the Kurt Siodmak pitfall of making up a bunch of cool stuff, which, I mean, in its own right is
right.
This is some cool stuff. This is what makes the movie unique, but just not doing much with it. Just put it in a mixing pot, and that's it. Like, okay, are you gonna make it make sense in the story? Or are you gonna have a story that works? In this case, it doesn't really. It feels like everything is moving from thing to thing by one particular word.
Episodic,
somehow.
A little episodic.
Or apparently.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes, like, literally in my notes, there are so many somehows and apparentlys.
Somehow, apparently. You like? We'll count how many somehows and apparentlys there are when you get to the plot part. This movie early on, they did have an idea called Chamber of Horrors, and there's some early art that actually called it Chamber of Horrors, I should say. It was going to have Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney Jr., Bela Lugosi, Peter Lorre, Mr. M himself, Claude Rains, George Zucco, and James Barton. I have no idea who James Barton is. I know who George Zucco is.
That is an expensive cast.
Guy.
George Zucco was in this movie.
Yes, he was for like a minute, half a minute. We'll see some more.
But that is an George expensive Zucco cast. Is the main
next
thing.
Movie? Yeah.
And the other thing is that like not a lot of them were sharing the same sort of like their arcs of popularity were different at this time. They
were going to have the Mummy in this.
Like I bet people like Peter Lorre and could you repeat the list again?
Claude Rains.
Claude Rains.
I don't know who he was going to play because the Invisible Man.
Those two, I feel like we're having more like simmering careers than stuff like Lon Chaney.
And Karis the Mummy being in it was one of Kurt Sudmak's early ideas, but that got scrapped by Edward Lowe. Because once you start writing the script, the story can take all kinds of, zigzags. Edward Lowe wrote for Lon Chaney Jr.'s father. In the movie The Hunchback of Notre Dame that came out in 1923, the silent version, Edward Lowe wrote the script for that, and that had Lon Chaney Sr. in it. He also wrote the script for a little movie that you like a lot, that you think is soft like cat. It's The Vampire Bat.
I can tell there's a lot of language sharage, and also having like a common like sympathy character who has some sort of impurity. Like in this case, it's a dude with a bunch of pillows in his back.
Well, you can't, and this is something I thought about, is
everyone
can't have an evil doctor.
Everyone discriminates
without a hunchback.
Yes, but everyone discriminates just because he has some pillows in his back.
He doesn't have. Okay. He does have. It's like a foam appliance. Actually.
Yeah, but that's really what it looks like.
There is. Do you remember in the movie where the Frankenstein monster takes a character named Daniel with the hunchback and chucks him through a window and he falls off a roof?
Yeah, that was like part of the end.
The things that are the mattresses on the ground he's supposed to fall on were not in the right position. So he hit the cement floor. The actor, his name is J. Carroll Nash. He hit the floor, and he almost got out. With the padding kept him from breaking his back. So good deal. And J. Carroll Nash, we'll talk about his long illustrious career. It's longer and bigger than you might think. He actually did work for a long time. So. Thank you that he had a hunchback, because without that hunchback, he would have been, probably laid up or dead. Who knows what? So there are some different or some different actors that had some different feelings about being in this movie. Let's talk about Anne Gwynn. Anne Gwynn, really, we'll talk about her in detail in a minute. But Anne Gwynn, if you remember, she played Rita Hussman, which is the fiance early on in the movie that gets enamored with Dracula's ring and the talk of undeath and all that kind of stuff. She was a hot number to a lot of the army guys. They had pictures of her in their lockers. I mean, she was like one of those actresses that are real pretty. That was kind of her claim to fame, was being a pretty face. So, but she said, I'm only in the movie for 30 minutes and just zap, and I'm out of the movie. She's like, I just do these couple lines and I'm boom, out of the movie.
Think about what John Carradine must have thought when he disappears halfway through the movie too.
Yeah, and now to come to think about it, now I know why Bela Lugosi may not. Well, some people said that.
Think about Ed Strange. He was in it for like 15 minutes.
Glenn, you mean Glenn?
Glenn Strange.
Well, he was in it. He was in it laying there. He was laying there for a lot of the movie, which that was the same. look, that's the same thing with a lot of the Frankenstein's monster movies. Is he's laying there waiting to be resuscitated.
Yeah, and I just don't get me started on his only use in this film, lest I spoil the ending like 15 minutes into the podcast episode.
Okay, so Karloff said in early 1944, he said he would never play Frankenstein's monster again. Other people have taken similar roles and the edge is off of it. I'm through with it. I made these horror films. They were of little importance in anybody's scheme of things, including my own. And though I did make a disgraceful amount of money, I was getting nowhere. So he felt very typecasted as a like kind of a mute monster kind of.
And so he's like, I'm gonna go arsenic and old lace. I think it was in the climax.
Yeah, I think so. Here's the thing though, and
what was it?
Oh, there's a handful of movies that were done by a guy named Val Lewton. A really excellent mystery and horror.
It sounds like an Anastasia villain.
He's a really good director, but he produced these movies, so yeah, he didn't direct all of those. But he got Boris Karloff to be in 3 or 4, and Karloff has nothing bad to say about Lewton. He said that he saved him from it was his savior because he gave him these movies that had a dark bent to it and maybe something horrific, but he got a chance to really act. There's a movie called The Body Snatcher, and
aren't we doing that one?
It is on my list to do a mini-sode of these Val Lewton Karloff movies. I'm really curious about it because I've heard stories that his performance in that is just, it's like he should be nominated. And it's like, Boris Karloff? Wow, he's got so much in him to give. And we know that from seeing him in 1931's Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. We know he's got it to give. So when we see somebody pull that out of him, he just wants really good meaty roles. He always has. The Body Snatcher, I think, is about people that used to rob graves back in the day for surgeons that would use them for medical cadavers, and they needed a bunch of them, and they would even turn to people that were maybe criminal. I did a lot of reading about these guys named Burke and Hare. There's these 2 Scottish guys that
sounds like a comedy group.
No, they needed no, they weren't. They were body snatchers and grave robbers, and there was such a need for fresh medical cadavers in the Edinburgh was in Scotland. They needed bodies so bad because they were doing dissections to teach people how to be surgeons and doctors. They needed bodies so bad that they didn't care how they got them. And Burke and Hare were like, well, what if we made the bodies? So they're like, oh, that old lady, nobody's going to miss her. Boom. Yeah, they started killing people. And it didn't turn out well. They backstabbed each other as far as, one guy went, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. The heat's getting on too hard, too hot. And he goes, and he actually, he turned the other guy in. He like backstabbed him and betrayed him. Yeah,
he's like, the doctors need you more than God needs you.
There's been a movie, I think.
Send him to the principal's office so he may be expelled.
Oh my goodness. So of course, Glenn Strange
round them up, all the bodies and corpses, and send them to the detention office.
So the monster
is it an office or what do you call it? Whatever. Never mind.
So the monster in this movie is played, like you said, played by Glenn Strange. I think this is the first time that he played it. If I'm correct. After the last 12 years before that, he had been in westerns mostly. He's a really tall, big guy, and that's kind of why they got him.
All the people loving them westerns.
Yes, well,
like the moment there wasn't a western in the theater was the moment when everyone sighed at the outside of the theater foyer, just dying, just send me. I need to find me the smoking room so I can sit here until they put a western on.
50s, yeah. He was in the Mummy's tomb for half a minute. He was like the guy working out in the farm. We mentioned that at the time. That you see that guy right there? That guy's going to play Frankenstein's monster later. He's like, one of the. I don't know if he was one of the victims of the Mummy or he just going, oh, the Mummy. I don't remember. So he didn't know he was testing for that role. He was testing for a role in a movie. He didn't know what he was testing for. And then Jack Pierce's studio calls him up and goes, we need to have you come in because we're going to test this kind of this scarring on your body, on your face. And then he knew, I'm the Frankenstein's monster. He just knew it. So again, the budget was $354,000. That is, it's one of the highest budgets for a Frankenstein monster. Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein went over budget, so they went over that amount of the $350,000.
That's funny because I feel like it did not exceed either of those films.
Yeah, yeah, you're, and they also reused some sets from Green Hell. Pittsburgh,
how they managed
Tower of London.
Yeah, how they managed for a B picture to have
to cost that much
an
money.
A film budget adjusted for inflation.
Yeah,
what it would have been in 1931.
Probably $1 million.
Frankenstein.
Yeah,
decent amount, and they still don't exceed it at all.
Yeah,
they don't do much else.
So
I mean, sure, like everything looks nicer. Definitely, as the 40s went on, just like they had a whole decade of experience. But what does it amount to? Not much. I will say it's like in between Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of them. I didn't, the money that they spent on this movie, I didn't really see it on screen, to be honest. I don't know what they spent their money on. I do know that, and you're going to be like, of course he did. John Carradine, in between takes, would recite Shakespeare to his fellow actors. Of course he's
like, hey, you want to have a demo for my theater chain I'm about to start?
Right, I'm starting a theater chain.
I'm starting a theater.
Theatra. And Lon Chaney actually he would make food for everybody. He did these really, over the top meals that he would make for people.
Imagine just Glenn Strange or like the Daniel guy, just it's good.
Glenn
he puts the thumbs up, and you're like, I worked so hard on the poutine, and you just tell me it's good.
So
just like imagine the guy who's just criticizing it, and you're like, dang it, just.
But Glenn Strange did not meet or talk with a lot of the other people. He did get some tips from.
Come on, it's salsa.
Yeah. He did get Glenn Strange did get some tips from Karloff on how to play. That's the story, that he got some tips on how to play the monster from Karloff, and you do notice some.
Okay, so what you do is you file your nails with a dirty, a popsicle stick that I don't know, maybe you suck on it. Although they probably won't do that while there's dirt on it. Suck on it before.
Are you telling me how to be a Frankenstein monster? Okay.
Shave the nails down, and then hold your hands out like this, and then lean over, move your foot. I can't move my feet because I'm sitting down, but like, and then make a face like a pufferfish, and that's it.
Really? Is that what you really think of Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster?
No, that's at least what he does in the movie. He's like, okay, I'll do this. This is what Boris Karloff was telling me.
You're saying that's what he got out of the conversation?
Yes.
Not what Boris told him, but what he goes, oh, you want me to do this? And it's like, no. So
what you want to do is you want to be at least 45 years old. Well, I can't do that. I can't be Frankenstein's monster. Walks out of the place.
So they made Glenn Strange eat a sack lunch, like a brown bag lunch, away from everybody else. He said that he thinks that he probably, with his makeup on, he would have turned the stomachs of the lady actresses. He would have been like, they would have been grossed out by me. So
he's got to eat lunch in the Glen.
Yeah, in the magical Glen with the forest creatures.
The magical Scottish Edinburgh villa.
There's a scene in the movie where he's inside this chamber, this like vapor chamber, and they're pumping like dry ice vapor into there or whatever. Glenn had some tubes that went up into his nose, so he could breathe, while that was going. and the tubes weren't big enough to cover his nose, and so he almost like suffocated in there, and he had to like hit this button that to let them know I'm gonna die. So he was fine though.
You ever think about how, as a modern society, how we just have developed a chemical that can be used against ourselves to just shut off all electricity in our brain for a time and still survive? It's anesthesia.
Anesthesia, yeah.
It
those guys,
shuts off your brain. You don't go to sleep.
They pay those guys really good.
It blocks
money
off
to
all
have the
nerve
right amount. Yeah.
signals to your brain, so there's no electricity going on there. It's silent.
I've had it done to me. Yeah, a couple times.
It's just power outage. That's so creepy. That just like a chemical can like do that within 10 seconds. You're like, ooh, and you can't do anything about it once it's run its course. It's
let's talk about
so
some
creepy.
of the other cast members. Of course, you mentioned George Zuko. Of course, we'll all remember him fondly, and we'll see him again next our next episode we're doing on the Mummy's Ghost as Andoheb. Yes, Andoheb is back. How is Andoheb back in the next movie? Don't ask questions. Just strap in, enjoy, turn your brain off. Andoheb, I think he died in one of the previous movies. I think maybe Mummy's Tomb or Mummy's Hand or Mummy's Pancreas. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, George Zuko plays Professor Lampini in this movie. House of Frankenstein.
He doesn't survive that long.
No, he doesn't. For he gets the the zoom into the hands, and he gets choked out by.
Okay, we'll refrain. We'll talk about that later.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's hard.
I have strong feelings that you're prodding into me, like what they probably did to Frankenstein in order to pull his face or whatever.
Right. So
needle nose pliers.
When we get to the part with the dancing girl, ask me what her real hair color is, the actress, and I'll tell you.
Blonde.
Or maybe I'll tell you in just a minute.
Blonde.
All right. Yes. So let's talk about why was Bela Lugosi not able to do this Arsenic and Old Lace. Of course, Boris Karloff was in Arsenic and Old Lace too. Why is he doing this? See, Bella, you couldn't get somebody else to take your part in there, but Boris did. Boris got Raymond Massey to take his part, which doesn't. Yeah,
Boris Karloff actually, is a British person. And that's more of a normal accent to people as compared to someone from further into Europe.
Yeah.
That's just what it was.
Well, Raymond Massey is British as well. Let's see.
That's why I'm like Peter Lorre probably was like
did you catch,
has a very limited amount of roles he could be in.
Like German or Bulgarian or something. Did you catch Lionel
or just like the funny short man, Did you catch
Lionel Atwill in this movie?
Was he a policeman?
He played an inspector again. He's played
Yeah,
Inspector.
he's always a policeman.
He's Inspector Arms.
Lionel Atwill and Lionel Belmore.
Lionel Atwill has played a burgomaster or some kind of mayor.
Burgermeister
type character. Meister Burger. Burgermeister.
Burgermeister Burger.
Yeah, remember that guy. If you don't remember that guy, you got to watch our Christmas reactions from last year. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Jack Pierce, his makeup is back in again. He's going to start simplifying the Wolfman's makeup to, I think, make it quicker to put on. And Lon Chaney Jr. is like, thank you, Jack. But, he did change.
It did have Jack Pierce makeup, actually.
Yeah. And also,
it did pretty much have Jack Pierce makeup.
And Frankenstein's monster also had similar makeup to what was done in Ghost of Frankenstein. So there we go.
Yeah.
Now I don't. Let's talk about Lon Chaney Jr.'s acting real quick before we talk about some of the other actors in this movie. What do you think of Lon Chaney Jr.'s acting choices in this movie?
He acts like a normal dude. The script is his fault. I'll talk about the script later. Do you think
he's kind of a whiner and he's kind of real, he's real emo. He's like super emo in this movie. He's just like
I just feel like
cursed.
his dialogue is a vehicle for the other characters.
Yeah.
He is a vehicle for the other characters because, they're assembling their monster team for whatever reason. Which actually, now that I think about it, what motivates Dr. Neiman?
Revenge, and he wants to continue Dr. Frankenstein's work.
I don't remember revenge.
Yeah, he wanted to have revenge on the three guys who put him into jail. It was Strauss, Hussman, and one other guy. I can't remember, Ernst or something like that. I can't remember his name. But yeah, he wanted to take.
Well, he doesn't get it.
Hussman just dies because Dracula. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about him wanting revenge at all. I'm just like he's motivated by the advance of his family's sciences at all cost. Because after all, he's like, forefather.
He got put in jail because he was trying to put a human brain in a dog.
Yes, the advancement of society.
He's trying to make the world's first furry.
He's trying to make Frankenweenie, and it fails.
Frankenweenie. That's a good movie. It's got some nice animation.
If only he'd stolen Larry Talbot's brain, and then he could have made the first Franken werewolf.
There you go. So,
I would pay to see that.
Have you seen this?
Frankenween Wolf.
Okay, so the character Daniel, the actor who plays him, his name is J. Carroll Nash. Have we seen him before? The answer
no.
is yes.
I haven't seen the MASH TV show, so I was going to make a reference to that if I could.
No, you have seen J. Carroll.
You'd be like, oh no, that's MASH.
Do you remember? Do you remember a little reaction? One of the first reactions that we had come out recently for the 1943 serial.
Man, a lot of advertising. Might as well subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hey,
our podcast.
What are you doing?
In order to discover new frontiers of stuff that we've done.
We've got 400 some odd subscribers
that no one knows about. We're telling
Yeah.
people this, and people are like, "Wait, you've done not only a podcast, but a watching a movie in front of you, edited."
Yeah.
And that sounds like a blast to you.
It is a blast.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep bringing you fun stuff like this as long as we feel like we want to, because we do this because we want to. Yeah, he played Dr. Daka. J. Carroll Nash played Dr. Daka, the Japanese villain. I found out that he was actually gonna play. They were actually gonna make him the Joker. Until they were like, no, let's bring a little bit of the. Let's make him a Japanese super spy bad guy. But see, the thing is, you're like, why did they have J. Carroll Nash play a Japanese guy? He's an Irish actor, but he's got this dark skin. He almost looks very ethnic. And they have him play, throughout his career, he's played people from Italy, Eastern Europe, Latin America, Native American, Middle Eastern, South Asian, East Asian, Pacific Islander, even African American. Somebody called him Hollywood's one-man United Nations. So he's actually Irish, but he said, when the part of an Irishman comes along, nobody ever thinks of me. He got 2 Oscar.
Yeah, they just want Darby O'Gill.
Yeah, he got 2 Oscar nominations for Sahara, which came out right before this movie, and a medal for Benny. He also got a Golden Globe as well.
Oh, nice. He got a medal for Benny and a medal for himself as well.
There you go. He also was in a TV show. He was Dr. Daka in Columbia's Batman serial. He was in House of Frankenstein. He also played a character named Luigi in a TV show on CBS called Life with Luigi that went on from 1948 to 1953.
It's like Game Mario. Have you ever thought about...
I'm having a life
being an Irishman? Have you ever thought about living in a common setting? Is it like the breakfast in bear thing they did with the bear in the blue house? Big blue house?
Right.
they did like a breakfast with bear thing where like
Breakfast with
the bear would go out into the real world and have breakfast with a guest child
with random people.
Kind of like Postcards with Buster, but more limited.
Okay, and the parents were okay with this?
And the parents were okay with the 12-foot bear in the middle of their house.
Yeah, so one more thing.
Sniffing the camera.
I watched another movie in secret in preparation for this movie because I heard that J. Carroll Nash was also in a movie called Dr. Renault's Secret. And
does he Dr. Renault the secret?
No.
I want to Dr. Renault the secret.
So he played a
Tell
servant.
me.
He played a servant of a mad doctor, played by George Zucco. And this mad doctor, his servant, his name is Noel. Okay? And Noel's played by J. Carroll Nash, but Noel is a secret of Dr. Renault's. You see, Noel's actually a gorilla or ape taken from Africa and Dr. Marode into a humanoid human person.
So he can most literally Nash.
It's Dr. Moreau with one creature is what it is. And it's not bad. It's pretty good. I'll send you a link one of these days. But
imagine putting a 12-foot ape in someone's house to have breakfast with you.
If you watch this movie,
I would pay for that.
If you're watching this movie,
come on,
CBS.
You're
gonna be like, I know exactly why they hired him to play Daniel in this movie because of
public broadcast
a great
network.
Performance. That was CBS or PBS. Okay, so Elena Verdugo is the actress who played the gypsy, and she has naturally blonde hair. But all the people who try to put her in movies go, well, you need to play ethnic roles. Because she's actually her family's from Spain, so
there was none of that. I just thought that she was like one of those
Europe.
Swiss villa girls.
See, there you go.
An eager personality,
she always
and that's
plays
it.
those kind of characters. Very similar to J. Carroll Nash. She's always playing parts from Eastern Europe and Spanish or whatever or Creole or whatever. She's always playing those kind of roles. And they always tell her, you need to put a wig on because they can't buy that she's ethnic and blonde. Her family...
it's not legal for her to be blonde.
Right, legally blonde. So here's the thing. Her family traces back to a man named Jose Maria Verdugo, okay? That's her ancestor. And you know what land he first owned in California? It was all the land where Universal Studios is. So if she wanted to kind of go... I kind of own this, right? They'd be like, oh, right, sure. She's like, I have the papers. But I think that actually could be contested. She actually came up with all the dance moves that she busts a move in this movie.
It's longer than it needed to be.
Well, you're seeing it from Daniel's point of view because he's enamored with Ilanka, girl.
Well, would it take 34 minutes of a dance if it were Daniel's mind? Would you want
like
that
if
it were realistic to Daniel's mindset?
It's a 60-minute long movie, and any time you spend in a 60-minute long movie feels like an eternity. She acted for many, many, many years after this. She was even on a show called Marcus Welby, MD. She died actually. I think maybe sometime in the 90s or 2000s. She lived to like long time. So good for you, Elena. Good for you. I'm
glad that she got to be running in the 90s.
She's a cute girl. She just lights up the screen whenever she's there. Even when she's like really mean to Daniel at one point, you still like her.
Again, needle nose pliers digging in my skin. I want to talk about it, but I'm gonna have to wait until all of our cool trivia facts are all discussed.
Okay, so the guy who plays Rita Hussman's boyfriend, Peter Coe, he's the guy that was saying those things about, like, oh, talk, women just talk too much. He's only in the movie for like 5 minutes, but he actually is in, I think he's in The Mummy's Curse, which is, we're doing that in a couple of...
Oh, no. If he has the same personality in that...
No, he plays like an Egyptian or Spaniard or something. He's always playing ethnic.
Spaniard.
He's actually from Yugoslavia. Peter Ko is actually from Yugoslavia.
My name is Inigo Anoya. Prepare to die.
Okay, his real name is Peter Nego. Knego. Kenigo. So his name is Peter Kenigo, and he killed your father. Prepare to die. He was actually good buddies with Ed Wood. Yes, Plan 9 from Outer Space and Bride of the Monsters. Ed Wood. Yes, that Ed Wood. He was.
I would have said like the Charles Dickens novel, or I don't remember exactly what. I'm pretty sure there was like a novel or a movie called Ed Wood.
It was the Wood of Times. Edwin Drood. You're talking about Edwin Drood. The one that was unfinished? Yeah.
That one, yeah.
We are the 10 gentlemen. Do you not see how our brains work? This is how we do things. We go all over the place. Come with us. Learn things. It's fun. So Ed Wood died in Peter Ko's house in 1978. No, it was not, it wasn't foul play. Peter Ko didn't kill Ed Wood. Ed Wood he was old and he was dying anyway. So that is all that I have on the production of this movie. Many of the things about this production carry over into House of Dracula, which we will talk about in
I'm looking much more forward to that movie because I feel like they would have done a lot more with it from what footage I've seen of the House of movies.
Yeah.
Then like that I didn't see barely any of that in this movie.
Does it have more Dracula? Because I think somebody told Dracula in this movie that this is a House of Frankenstein movie.
I feel like House of Dracula, probably biggest fault over the first movie would be trying to fix up for what the first movie did, and it'll be interesting seeing how that links up.
If we see some more Dracula, I'll be happy. All right, so and treat it with some gravitas and respect. Put some respect on the name of Dracula. That's probably
the respect that is the actor's name. John.
Carradine.
Carradine.
Yeah,
now we sound like a perfume commercial.
Yeah. Chanel No. 5.
John.
Obsession.
It's the
by John.
It's the scent for you.
It's the scent of blood on a night when you think about a land where people are dead and not yet dead.
This is a little bit extra.
Right. So, what do you have to say about what the story this movie was trying to tell? What would you say?
I've actually had some things I was looking up on my own time about the history of film that I wanted to discuss with you a little bit about.
The entire history of film?
No, it's just that I've been missing a little bit of talking about the film industry at large and browsing Wikipedia for some cool stuff. We always did that sort of stuff in early season 1, later season 1, early season 2, all of the nice researches.
I'm going to get ready to do a cannonball because I feel like we're going on a deep dive.
Alrighty. So the first thing I was thinking about was how black and white movies separate from reality. And here's a specific thought I had.
Okay.
Was that, stuff like Vietnam and World War II, those events are easier to watch in black and white. I feel like because people don't like to perceive the reality of pictured events and stories,
Interesting.
How Vietnam was broadcast in when it was happening the 70s or 90s or whatever, that it became so much more real. It's just people overall with movies, black and white was appreciated as a style. I feel like it was an art form still, and people still clung on to black and white. By the way,
still today,
they clung on to it to the
like the Lighthouse movies, like the Lighthouse.
Yeah, but I feel like that's like a fad sort of thing.
I don't think it's a fad. It's a style.
Yeah, it's a style.
It's beautiful.
It is a style, but it's it wasn't done out of sheer necessity. And I feel like that sheer necessity probably stopped at the 90s, when they didn't have digital cameras and ease of access. But yeah, it clung on even to the 60s.
The biopic the biopic for Ed Wood, the story of Ed Wood that Tim Burton did with Johnny Depp in it, that was filmed in black and white because,
Cool. That's
why
the Ed Wood I think of. That's the Ed Wood I was thinking of. Funny. But yeah, I think people still watched silent movies in the early 30s. Don't you think? There are definitely a lot of people who moved on, but some people still watched silent movies in the early 30s. Same with physical media compared to digital media.
Right.
We haven't moved on to streaming services. Maybe it's because it's not a great thing, but regardless, people still had vinyl. People still have vinyl. As compared to
today,
when stuff like LimeWire and Spotify, iTunes and LimeWire
Kazaa, Morpheus. Oh, that was my era.
We're cropping up, and it's like you don't have to have this on vinyl. Where it's like you make like a nice $20 purchase, which $20 was a lot back then, probably.
Right.
For
an album,
on a roulette table of something you like that it might have something you like, or you cassette tape on a car, which probably wouldn't been very lucrative. It wouldn't sound great, but you'd have it.
Some people are Some people are going back to cassettes. There's some artists that are actually putting their albums out on
vinyl
cassettes
is
now.
Taking a bit of a rise. With the popularity of streaming services and Spotify and stuff.
There's a lot of infamously and probably not very fairly, we've said that vinyl was, hipsters really wanted vinyl, but I mean, like Jack White of the White Stripes. I mean, he owns actual record company where they actually put out vinyl.
And then even still with stuff like we're talking, Oppenheimer is on film.
Yes.
It's not digital. It's still using the epic 500 nanometer enhanced height technology.
Yes.
Not coming to mind. But yeah, that's still using film. And that came out a year or two ago.
In the theater. Yeah, in the theater. Yeah.
We still use film, and it's a bit crazy.
Christopher Nolan is famous for doing that. He likes a lot of that stuff. I like a lot of Christopher Nolan's movies, but he really needs to work on his sound mixing. But anyway, go ahead.
I think older texts don't immediately lose subjective value in favor of objective value. It's not. I will say there are a lot of people who move on, but it's not a clean cut. It's not this is the new thing. Everyone transition to it immediately. Ubisoft, Ubisoft, everything is online now. EA Sports, everything is online. From here on out, it's not like that. We still have some of this stuff. We still keep it around, because it's still, a style. You can still appreciate it. It's not immediately obsolete. There's still subjective value to it, even though, the objective value is it's better,
I've heard of some people keeping their PlayStation 2 because it's the only place you can get a particular game that wasn't changed or altered. He's like, I heard somebody said, well, I haven't gotten rid of my
they cut the
PlayStation
music
2.
out of all of those. They cut the music as the rights go out. And you want to keep all that forever so that you can have the perfect experience of Grand Theft Auto. Anyway, I think 1967, in fact, was the first year that there was more color movies put out than black and white movies, which is crazy. That we're starting to get it in the 1940s with Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz, all that stuff.
Well, we
just
had
prevailing.
Robin. Well,
majorly, Robin Hood.
Would you say Robin Hood?
Thief of Baghdad.
Thief of Baghdad. We've done two color movies.
Crazy. 30 years, 30 more years, and then it's still 1950s with Godzilla. That was still black and white.
Still black and white.
Should be.
We're gonna be doing black and white for a
Citizen
while.
Kane famously wanted to be kept in black and white.
Yes.
He was like fighting it decades earlier. There were like Turner Classic Movies is like, we're gonna turn this into color, and he's like, and then Orson Welles,
like,
no you don't,
you don't. Yeah. Wait. We are gonna do another color movie. Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court with Bing Crosby.
Yeah. But a big thing that you can even see, I was talking about how World War II, in color. There is some footage online on YouTube that I have found I can actually like link to.
Yeah, there's a whole Netflix documentary.
It's like it's 45
colorized.
It's 50 minutes of someone like talking about how the war back was in like Normandy and stuff. Their journey there, and the color film
so
they recorded, which it's unbelievable. It's so weird because it's like. Remember Technicolor, they had to use 3 film strips, and they had to lug around a big camera, and they had to have the perfect lighting and everything, which, on the sea? No, you're not going to get that. But it's just surreal to think that like World War II, everything thinks of in black and white. And have you heard that like sometimes where they're putting like different colors, photos were originally in color, but then they put them in black and white, like the Martin Luther King Jr. speech, I think, was one of those where like they put that in black and white to make it think like it was older than it actually is. It's more separated from reality. But no, it's a color photo, you know? And it's
there's a 2009 documentary called World War II in HD color.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
I also wanted to let's get into some film history because I was like, what are some of the stuff going around in 1943, 1944 at the beginning of the season that we were sort of missing out on?
Okay.
Number one, Casablanca is making the rounds. I was talking about movies on Wikipedia that were comes out on the Broadway theater and then worldwide later.
Yes.
This is what happened. Casablanca is a 1942 movie because it came out in like the last week of December, and then January, like at the beginning of January, is when they put it out worldwide. So it's technically 1943 in that regard.
But
technically 1942.
They think about it when it premiered is kind of when they're trying to say that. Yeah.
But it's making the rounds there. Leslie Howard from Gone with the Wind died that year. We also had a couple more people who died there as well. Conrad Veidt, our favorite somnambulist,
Conrad
OG Joker,
Veidt, yeah,
and Dwight Frye. Who we just saw in...
we talked about that in
we glanced on him in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and that's all we see of him.
He died shortly
after
year. That movie came out, yeah.
It's so weird. But yeah, it's Leslie Howard. He was most famously in Gone with the Wind. Don't have his name here, but he died from a plane crash.
Wait, Leslie Howard was in The Most Dangerous Game? Was that right? Let me see.
Best film that year was a movie called The Song of Bernadette, which is a biography drama about Saint Bernadette. The 1941 novel was a New York Times bestseller for 65 weeks, which is like a year and 13 weeks, I believe, is what I recorded that as. Which is quite a bit. So it was a very popular Saint Bernadette, I guess, and so they made a biography film, and that was a hit. Major actors: Bing Crosby, Abbott and Costello, of course. I think 1943 it was like a film. I remember it was like a pun with "hey," so like "hey yeah" or "hey day" or "day hey" or something. I don't remember. It was just like a 2-3 letters. 2-3 word title with "hey" as the pun. James Cagney, Mickey Rooney, those are all in the popularity order. Bing Crosby, Abbott and Costello, James Cagney, Mickey Rooney. Saludos Amigos came out in 1943. You get to see Donald Duck enjoy the Brazilian woman, the Latinas.
Yes.
It popularized Donald Duck in the sort of space. I think he was like the front man of propaganda back then, because he was in that short where he was depicted in the German army, and then he wakes up, it was all a dream, and is like, oh, how it is to be in America, and he's like doing this to like a Statue of Liberty or something. He's like, oh, I wish I wasn't in Germany anymore, how good it is to be in America. And then Saludos Amigos was part of their program to be more friendly with South America by making Brazil seem like, it's all tropical and nice and everything when it wasn't
what
really
was the Caballeros?
Yeah, that came out in 1945, I believe. And that was, funnily enough, like, they did a whole thing where they premiered the movie in Brazil first, and then America later, and then they did Mexico first and America later.
Those, I've seen, though. Those are
with,
fun.
Caballeros.
Those are really fun.
Yeah, but then again, Donald Duck enjoying the Latinas is a bit much.
I was wrong. I was wrong. What did you say? Is Leslie Howard?
Leslie Howard.
I got it mixed up with Leslie Banks, who played Count Zaroff. So I was wrong. Different Leslie.
This Is the Army was like the most popular film with the 8.3 million domestic rental. I don't know what rental means in this case, but maybe there's renting the film reels, I guess.
Oh, to go to the theaters, yeah.
Domestic rent, 8.3 domestic rental. This Is the Army. It has Ronald Reagan in it, who of course would be a president.
Right.
I think it had one more president. I think it also had, it was a lady whose last name was Costello, who was the wife of like John Barrymore and like the grandmother of Drew Barrymore. I might have those.
Yeah.
I might have those mixed up, but I was like, is she related to Lou Costello? I didn't see anything. We don't have Wikipedia didn't have much information on Lou Costello's family. It just had his brother.
Right.
But I did look into This Is the Army. It's basically like there's a bunch of musical numbers separated with like I guess like middle segments of light story. I did see there was one segment there, a bunch of dark-skinned people were doing like a dance. They're all real dark-skinned people, but there's a racist imagery in the background of the blackface version of dark-skinned people.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I was like,
it's unfortunate.
I don't know how they could have really agreed to that. Because it's like there are 14, like,
a lot of people didn't think anything of it
in this number.
They didn't think anything of it at the time.
No one thought of anything
of it.
That's not
good. No, it's not good.
Same thing with, like, Saludos Amigos and the Caballeros and stuff, which is, like, Lassie Come Home was a movie that came out, Lassie, came out in 1943. That was where Lassie, the character, came in. I think she was, she. I don't actually know the gender of Lassie.
It's a she. She's a collie.
Yeah,
collie
but
dog.
I think she was like in the real life, I guess, like Hachiko sort of situation. But they turned her into a fictional character. I don't know, but she was like based on a real dog or something.
That's what people say. Yeah.
Akira Kurosawa debuted as a director this year with Senshiro Sagata. Do you know anything about this film?
I was thinking Sancho the Bailiff. No?
It's Senshiro Sagata. It's the first film Akira Kurosawa made. He would be Yojimbo, Seven Samurai, I think.
Seven Samurai. Yeah, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of Kurosawa movies, and
not to confuse with Akira Toriyama, which would be like Dragon Ball Rest in Peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah.
This dude died in like 1985. I'm pretty sure. Funnily, this movie was partially lost as 1,800 feet or so. I think like 27 minutes were cut in 1944 for government war policy and possibly like financial gains, I guess, in the public eye.
Of what movie? The
Senshiro Sagata.
Well, well, wait a minute.
They cut stuff.
They probably cut that for because of it was
government war policy.
It was Japan. Yeah, Japan.
Yeah, they didn't like whatever stuff. It screwed over a lot of people's motives in the movie, as well as the pacing of the movie. Just completely screwed up.
The characters' motives, yeah.
Just like excising random little bits, and it's like, come on. Especially for his first film that people will want to go back to,
Yeah,
everyone goes back to someone's first film.
He made up for it later with just some amazing.
Yeah, I think he remade the film like 6 times, but none of them are as good as the first one. I think they managed to recover like 10 more minutes, but I could not find much on the exact values of how many minutes were cut versus we have now.
Right.
So 27 minutes and 10 more minutes might be completely wrong numbers. Speaking of which, Magnificent Ambersons, 1942, famous movie. Orson Welles got excised.
We
a
talked
lot of
about that
content
in our Citizen Kane episode. Check that one out.
I'm still waiting for a complete version of that movie, and I want to see it. I want to see it really bad. There are multiple efforts to it though. And,
to restore Orson's
one's redrawing
vision.
it, one's trying to find the stuff, and I think another guy was redrawing stuff as well. But I'm not sure.
You got to be careful about restoring an original director's vision, because directors' visions can change, and how do you know exactly what their vision was? Because they're not here to tell you; they're dead.
Yeah, I'm gonna pronounce the title as best as I can. Munchausen, I believe, came out in 1943. It was basically the German Wizard of Oz sort of thing. Greatest German color film of all time, according to modern professor Eric Rentschler.
I don't think it had anything to do. It didn't have anything to do with like Germany. If it's
it's a fantasy, Germany fantasy.
No, there's a character named Baron Munchausen. It might be who that's about. Yeah, Baron Munchausen was infamous for telling tall tales of his exploits, and they make it as if he's telling the truth. The weirdness and things, he's been to the moon and he's breathed the air there, and there was cheese, and yeah, it's just the most fanciful stuff that you've ever heard of. Yeah, I've got a copy of a Baron Munchausen movie that was made in Czechoslovakia, and it's actually really interesting. Uses a lot of look. Let's put it this way: if George Méliès could make a Baron Munchausen movie in using all of his techniques and stuff, he would love to. That's
because especially if it's like it's trying to have this light atmosphere. Especially, I think Volksfilm was the term for like a light Germany escapism movie, because this is like a escapism movie was the function of this movie. They were trying their best with color to be like Wizard of Oz, Thief of Baghdad, and Gone with the Wind. They were just like, we're gonna study these films real good and make it the best thing we can do. And then Eric Rentschler said, greatest German color film of all time. It was like their Wizard of Oz, man.
I'm curious if to try to find, even if it's in the original German, it might have some subbies, but
yeah.
This
next one's rough. Der Seinstadt was a 1944 film that was filmed by Jewish people, documenting a happy existence in the camps. The camp specifically is Der Seinstadt. Immediately after,
is this a real documentary or a fictional?
It's like a propaganda documentary that they were filmed by
Did they
Jews.
force the Jewish people to show that the concentration camps are awesome?
Yeah, I think it was mainly to like send to other people, the Allies, to tell them that concentration camps aren't that bad. That they're not actually that they don't allegedly do terrible stuff to people in the concentration camps. But this thing, which is
horrific, yeah.
Immediately after filming ended, the staff were executed in Auschwitz.
That is
concentration
horrible.
Camp.
That is horrible.
Yeah, so they were like, they made this film, and then like immediately, once they set down the cameras, they're like, off you are to be executed.
That's it. That's interesting.
It's a interesting circumstance.
In a tragic way. Very, yeah.
In a tragic way, but just like, how did this happen? Let's see.
It's like that actor and that actress that got kidnapped by the previous president of North Korea so they could make.
All right, this is turning into a true crime podcast.
No,
that was the one thing.
We'll talk
that
about
we're like.
that
Let's
when
not
we get,
make this too heavy.
If we ever do Pulgasari, I'll tell you about the true story of the director of that.
Yeah, for historical objective purposes that we mentioned, Der Seinstadt, the film. Now, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Stage Door Canteen, Destination Tokyo, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, with Spencer Tracy in it, The Story of Dr. Wassell, The White Cliffs of Dover, and To Have and Have Not with Humphrey Bogart. 3 or 4 million domestic rental films that were war films, in these 2 years, 1943 and 44.
Yeah.
There were 2 films, Star Spangled Rhythm and Thousands Cheer, in 1943 for a morale-boosting,
Were those musical
comedies, stuff like that.
There you go. That sounds like a musical kind of movie.
We have Meet Me in St. Louis in 1944, Julie Garland. We watched actually.
That's one of Mom's favorite movies ever.
Just
she watches she loves it.
It's bound to be pretty good in St. Louis. Going My Way, which was a Bing Crosby film. That was his top film of 1944, actually, was Going My Way, because everyone liked Bing Crosby then. Double Indemnity was a Edward G. Robinson movie, 1944. We talked about Arsenic and Old Lace. The Woman in the Window was a Fritz Lang movie that came out in 1944.
Yeah.
And additional little facts about it. IKEA was established in 1943, I believe, as well as the commercial...
In Sweden, I think.
In Sweden, as well as the commercialization of Jeeps, because they had them in the war.
Yes.
They then made a brand and gave them to everyone else in 1943.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra was the hots on the radio. Lots of fangirling for him.
Oh, Blue Eyes himself.
Oh, Blue Eyes. Behind Blue Eyes is the song by the Who.
The Who, yes.
Behind Blue Eyes.
This will be Mr. Blue Eyes, which is
dreams. Anyway,
Heart is empty.
Hans Asperger published his paper on Asperger's syndrome in 1944.
How is that important to
establishing what Asperger's syndrome is? Because it's on the autism spectrum. Smokey Bear posters were being produced in 1944.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
You
must prevent them
not
now
me.
Immediately.
You.
Not me.
If there's a fire, it's your fault. You.
Yeah, that's why I'm like they give like the PSAs, and I'm like, sure, but what can I really do in this circumstance? It's like, okay,
do
I have all the responsibility of the entire world on my shoulders?
You can prevent them by doing the right thing, but you can't put out the you can't put out the fires, but you can help keep them from starting in the first place by following Smokey the Bear's rules.
And, that's the thing. Computers were being developed in the early 40s, with the first automatic digital computers being such as the German Z3 computer and the American cipher cracker known as Colossus. There was also the ENIAC computer.
ENIAC, yeah.
Some others?
Alan Turing. That was the time of Alan Turing. Alan Turing was who we call the father of artificial intelligence, or AI. Because of he used the Enigma machine to crack the German codes.
And so there are also measures upon like a computer being Turing complete, and I believe IBM's Harvard MK1 computer was like one of them that was like absolutely it has all the features and is Turing complete. The first one with like vacuum tubes and stuff is what we're talking about.
Right.
It's funny to think like what they did before vacuum tubes would have been like they just have a bunch of abacuses in a room with like electrical wires moving them.
Well,
it'd be funny.
I've seen the early cipher cracking machines in the movie Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley, and these machines have these big dials and they just click clack and it's loud. They click clack clack clack. These noises. It feels more like a machine than a
more like the NASA launch room, just like everyone's clicking all the things. Also, there was Vannevar Bush's hypothetical concept of the Memex. Do you want to know what the Memex is?
Is that a Dr. Seuss book?
No, but I thought the name was funny. The Memex. I think it's supposed to be like more like Memex, but like basically it's like imagine all the books and information and stuff and cataloging that in some sort of way, like a machine, like in a one box thing. I've
heard of a mimeograph. I've heard, and I've heard of that. But this is.
But 1945, he published a paper. That was like a way of something. The Memex, which is led to the development of the World Wide Web with hypertext consoles in the 60s. They were like, okay, this dude is actually spitting. Let's make something where we can put media into a box that everyone can be able to access.
Yeah.
To extend our memory. I believe that was the origin of the name, Memex, Memory Extend. So that's really all I have, actually, on the history of the year, and it's just a lot of interesting
I'll
things
tell
I've
you,
been thinking
anybody who has heard this part of the podcast, if you've stayed with us through it, you've learned stuff. I've learned things. William's learned things, and so have you. And your brain is so much more wrinkled now for having absorbed that information. And
yeah, I'm like, I just like,
you'll be ready.
I'm missing some of this stuff. I'm gonna go do research into what I think is cool.
Now if you heard William, okay, you just turned your brain on. You follow me?
Now let's turn our brain off.
Off for the plot of House of Frankenstein.
All right, time to ask yourselves, who is Ada Lovelace before I turn the switch off in your brain and the anesthesia in your brain.
Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage, right? The early computers, like during the Victorian era.
IBM stands for IB doing this plot.
IB making monsters multiply.
Invisible boom.
Invisible Boom's Revenge. No, that doesn't work.
That's the last movie we did.
No, yeah. So, House of Frankenstein, a.k.a. The Devil's Brood, a.k.a. Chamber of Horrors, a.k.a. The Monster Mash.
The Monster Mash.
It's a graveyard smash, is what the reviews of this movie said. It's a graveyard smash.
So I will give you how the movie literally starts. Actually, we don't have a creative opening this time. It's just a flat background, and then it fades into the movie.
It's cheaper. It's cheaper.
10 seconds into when it would actually have gotten in. So, pretty cool. You get to see the Lampini caravan 10 seconds before it would have appeared if it didn't.
Right.
So, first of all, we get that exists. There's something Dracula on the
side
caravan.
Of it, yeah. So if you keep your eyes peeled, you start seeing some Dracula.
We also
and then you stop seeing Dracula.
Yeah, we also get the Neustadt prison,
yes.
Where we start. Then a dude walks up to this prison door, and the guy reaches over and chokes him out. We also know he's related to Frankenstein, and this is over a piece of chalk. So I guess he means business. He's just choking him out over a piece of chalk. Alrighty?
Yeah, and he says,
give me my chalk.
He says, you watch it, you Frankenstein type scientist. He goes, don't profane his words upon your lips.
Yeah, it's like literally just like if you give him only a red chalk, he will be like, no.
White chalk
grip
only.
onto you. Please, I need yellow to make a flower and green, please.
Well, he's drawing all over the walls, and he's got, he's like he's like that guy with the red yarn, and he said that with the conspiracy theorist meme. He looks like,
but instead of Pepe Sylvia.
It's dogs with human brains.
He is studying. He thinks his forefather severed the spinal cord of the brain at an incorrect position, and it should be moved.
I think his relationship to Dr. Frankenstein is his brother was his helper or something, and he learned from him or something. He learned somehow.
It's like, I've got to make life, but the thing is, you cut the spinal cord at a wrong position. And then also there's this dude, Daniel. He's like, I want a new body because I'm a hunchman. Then the prison freaking exploded. Then the prison freaking explodes.
If he wants to be a Dr. Frankenstein, he's got to have a hunchback. You got to Carl wasn't hunchbacked, but Fritz was, and then Igor was kind of twisted. And so I think it's kind of, cliche. He's got to have a hunchback. But yes, lightning strikes.
It just freaking explodes. It explodes. Lightning strikes the place, and it gets rid of a whole chunk of the building.
Apparently. Somehow.
Somehow. Yeah. So that they can have free passage out. Get out of jail, past jail.
For free. Get out of jail for free, literally.
Yeah, past jail and go is the Monopoly term, I think. Unguarded. They don't encounter like a single guard, actually. They're all focused on getting the Lampini caravan out of the mud, but that's it.
They do encounter Lampini, and Lampini's caravan is stuck in the mud. I think
why don't they have a watch guard right next to the prison?
Daniel is really strong, I guess, so he can get that carriage pulled out. And how do we repay you, Dr. Neiman? And he goes like, well, he gets him he lets him get in the carriage, and he says something about we were kidnapped by bandits in the mountains for 3 months. He's like spinning that story.
I can't believe that there isn't a watch guy there. Like,
yeah,
I mean, like,
they couldn't afford.
All you got to do is make it a panopticon, and then you've got the and then they wouldn't have been able to escape.
No, that's true. That's true. But they did. And
do you know what the word panopticon means?
I think it means it's built so that people can watch you from above. It means all watching or watching everywhere.
Yes, it's basically, like those prisons that are in a circle and they have all the police watching them in the middle. So that it's a concept of a prison like that, a prison where you cannot be, you do not know if you're being watched or not.
Right.
That is what that is. For those who don't know what a panopticon is, a panopta what?
Wasn't that one of the Transformers? It's the Autobots versus the Panopticons. Yeah, I know. I'm smart.
Yeah, defeat the evil forces of the Panopticons, Transformers.
Yes. Yeah, I'm smart. I'm
more
smart.
than meets the eye.
More than meets the eye.
More than meets the eye.
Right.
Okay, what is meeting my eyes?
So they're in the carriage with Lampini.
Yeah, they crawl. They go in there and they're like, what you doing? And he's like, no one respects me because I have the body of Dracula. And then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna start reciting the lore to you. And he's like, and I'll continue reciting the lore. And he's like, and I'll recite more lore. And he's like, yeah, you know your stuff. And the thing is like, but you're not coming out of here alive. And then Daniel just like holds his hands out like 1 foot in front of him and like swoops in. He's like, oh no,
don't.
No, don't do that.
You're 10 feet away from me, and I could just put my hands up and stop you, but I'm not gonna.
It's like, no. I'm being dead. I'm being killed. No.
Yeah.
He does the Home Alone thing. It's just that's how he dies. I literally chuckled out loud.
I think a lot of audiences and reviewers did too. So
that was the one thing where I was like, he literally is just like 2 feet in front of him, and he was like, but you're not escaping.
Well, Daniel or J. Carroll.
Or he's like, I'm gonna go to like Royalburg or something like it, and he's like, well, you're not going to Royalburg, and then he goes, no, and then he starts approaching.
We are going to Regalburg, or I'm gonna kill you. So J. Carroll Nash had some practice with that iron grip because his ape man character Noel from Dr. Renault's Secret also choked people out with an iron grip.
Oh, wasn't that this year, wasn't it?
42.
All right,
it was the year before. So he was practicing his iron grip, his choking hands.
So Neiman really does throughout the movie. He speaks slowly and repeatedly about his plans. So I was like, we're going. He's like, while they're in the carriage, he's like, we're going to Liederberg. To Liederberg we go. Going to Liederberg was basically like all he said, and I'm like, okay. He's just slowly
He said we're gonna go visit those people who didn't like me very much. Yeah. They when they're in the prison, they have these full beards, and it's very hard to tell that it's Boris Karloff until he gets the beard shaved. He's just got like a mustache the rest of the movie. Same with Daniel. He goes clean shaven. But Karloff looks kind of creepy with a beard. I've always thought that. That's been my firm belief.
Yeah, he has more hair than a beard in this movie.
Yeah, okay. And so they head to Regalburg.
Yeah, they head to Regalburg. Meanwhile, we get the scene of these people who are goofing off in the mayoral estate. There's the Burgermeister who barely does anything. There's the woman character,
Rita. There's Rita Hussman.
I didn't even catch her name in this film, so I just.
The Burgermeister has a son named Carl. That's the guy who keeps making fun of the girl.
Yeah, he's literally just like, woman talk all the time, and then she immediately is immediately focused on him, walks over and is like, hey, blood, mind your blood pressure, and it's just.
Yeah, exactly. She really wants.
She's like 20-something.
She wants her father to go
making
with
my
her,
blood pressure rise.
To go with her and her fiance to the scary Lampini Chamber of Horrors thing. This Burgermeister is actually, his last name is Hussman, and that's one of the guys that Dr. Neiman wants to revenge himself on. So that's why he's going to Regalburg, because Hussman is the Burgermeister there now. He didn't used to be, but he is now, and so he's like, really?
This film is a lot of just cascading scene to scene to scene with nary a good clue as to the goings on. And this is like the just big issue with this movie is like just the script.
A string of incidents.
It's like, okay, so we're here in this prison, and there's this dude who is Frankenstein related, I guess. And then they spontaneously escape. Okay, and then there's these people who are like, we're gonna do our little thing, and then just okay.
So they go see the Chamber of Horrors. And,
they go see the Chamber of Horrors. He is there. He's replaced Lampini, and he's like, yo, this is Dracula. Trust me, because that's gonna work after the Lampini himself told you it won't work, and it didn't work. Funnily enough, there's this police dude who's like, hey, are you really Lampini? And he's like, I'm his brother.
Somewhere? You look really familiar.
You look really familiar. Don't I know you? And it's like, I don't think there would be any reason he would know him. That's literally just convenience.
The reason why he would know him is because Hussman helped put Neiman in prison. So that's why he's going, do I know you? Because 20 or 30 years before, or however long Dr. Neiman's been in prison, that Hussman put him in there. Hussman and Strauss and this other guy, they aren't, I don't know what his name is. They put Neiman in prison, so he's basically, he wants to continue the research, but he's more interested in the revenge than anything else. He doesn't full on go get. He does go with Daniel to go in a little bit to go get the diaries of Dr. Frankenstein. Because he is going to continue the research, but he wants revenge too.
Yeah. He closes the curtain, and then Dracula has a stake. It's basically a stake in the middle of a skeleton, so he pulls that out. He appears, and he's like, yo, hold on a bit. I will serve you if you serve me. Allow you to do whatever you want, I guess. As long as you do whatever I want, or don't do whatever I don't want, basically. And he's like, okay. And then they move on to the next scene. I was like, are they gonna show him but he's actually Dracula, or is that gonna die? Because it's like, why even show the Dracula? Why even show the Dracula if it's like not gonna have any effect upon the public at all?
Yeah, and the other thing is this: you don't really give him any respect. You're not really giving Dracula the respect, because Bela Lugosi played him as this evil Lord of Darkness, and I'm sorry, but Carradine is he's not quite reaching that that level of evil yet.
Yeah. So surely enough, John Carradine Dracula, he makes his way over to the Burgermeister and the lady. I believe it's the same two, right?
Yeah, and her fiance, who is the Burgermeister's son.
They go meet over wine. I guess he doesn't drink the wine. I don't think they put that detail in.
I was like, I thought about later. It's like Bela Lugosi's Dracula wouldn't drink wine.
Like, it's either that he was like putting it up to his mouth and then he wasn't like actually drinking it. You're supposed to notice that, or that he was interrupted by her staring at him and going, and then he goes like, "Are you looking at my ring? Here, have my ring." And it's like she's just enchanted by it and just like, it's a world of death. And then she starts just creepy monologues. Her whole thing, she's like,
she is hypnotized.
Want to go there, and it doesn't.
He says,
really,
I'm gonna come see you before the dawn.
I don't get why he always has to snag a lady in these films. He's just like, I'm gonna snag a lady. What does he want?
Because ladies, women go with their boyfriends to scary movies, and if the lady is getting scared by the vampire, they're gonna get close to their boyfriend, and boyfriend's gonna be like, "It's okay. It's all right.
I'm shiny. I'll outshine the monster.
I'm here to take care of you."
Let's go see another film. I think like literally he like there's a scene he like the Burgermeister, or no, I think it was the dude who's like researching. He's like, "Oh yeah, Dr. Neiman, Or it might have been the Burgermeister. I don't remember.
The Burgermeister is
Dracula.
Stays up,
he
stays up late, and his wife's like, "Come to bed, please." And he's like, "Honey, go to bed." And he's like, "I'm gonna research this." And he goes,
Dr. Neiman. Interesting.
That's why that
and
guy
then
looks
John
familiar.
Carradine Dracula appears over, and then he turns into a bat in the shadow, and the Burgermeister just lets him partake.
Him. Yeah.
He doesn't say anything or do anything. He just transforms. They pan the camera.
This hypnotizing
and he does
eyes.
The thing.
He has this thing where he does the wide-eyed stare, and it's supposed to be the vampire hypnosis, is what it is.
Yeah, just why not wear glasses while you're reading, and then just
and then it doesn't
prevent
work,
that entirely.
So Hoosman
the one thing, wear reading glasses and then get him in his own spell.
Burgermeister Hoosman is dead. And so that's one guy striked off of Neiman's list.
And Dracula has snagged the lady. They're going on caravan. There's this chase scene where everyone is chasing everyone else. Dracula ends up, his carriage goes down, and he gets gotten by the sun, I believe, while the others continue chasing and manage to escape.
Lampini, a.k.a. Neiman, and Daniel are trying to help out. But what Daniel does, I think he tries to help him out by chucking the coffin out the back of their carriage so that Dracula can hop in the coffin and, of course, not get a nice suntan. But he does anyway.
Oh, by the way, the boyfriend recognizes that the ring on her finger is Dracula's because it has his insignia
Dracula's
from his coffin
crest.
that he saw for 2 seconds. Is that something everyone recognizes now?
It also...
He's like, wait, I know where that ring is. It's Dracula's ring.
Anybody that's like from Germany or Eastern Europe somehow knows who... If you're from, kind of like...
There's just a lot of, wait a minute, I know what that is for some reason.
Do you remember the doctor from the Hungarian doctor from Son of Dracula? Oh, he knew all about Dracula, And you're like, why do you know everything about Dracula?
Yeah, he can fly over a swamp. Anyways,
Alucard,
in this case, he couldn't. He gets gotten by the sun. By the way, it's the first time in a while we've had a high crane shot over a big sort of land set in a Frankenstein movie.
Yeah.
Because they did that when he was at this river part. I believe it's Dr. Neiman. Or it could have been John Carradine Dracula.
No, they were looking up at there's a part where they're in the camp and they look up at the ruins of Dr. Frankenstein's old stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like
those painted those matte
No,
paintings.
that's later on in the movie. This is before they ride into the village.
So after Dracula's dead,
but I just wanted to make note that I remember seeing like sort of that stuff from like the fight scenes at the end of those movies where there's this big sets. It's just like it's been like Bride of Frankenstein was like last where I saw something like that sort of shot.
Yeah.
So it's sort of interesting. Yeah, he does melt the bones. We've had that in Son of Dracula. Big whoop. They too, Daniel and Dr. Neiman ride into town with like just two blank expressions as the joyful villa dancing music and dancing for like 2 minutes. They're just like especially like Daniel because they focus on him.
Daniel. He's looking because he's fallen in love.
But like they ride into town over the shoulder shots a couple times, but like they're riding into town and they're just the blankish face, neutral face. And that's like the whole thing that they do. That's funny. But yeah, the dance lady is getting whipped by her owner, and they're like, "No way, Jose!" And they kidnap her.
Well, I think it's called rescuing.
I think it's called rescuing.
Yeah,
they rescue her from their captives.
Her name is Ilanka, and she made some money off of doing the dances, and she took her bit, but her boss wants all the money, and that's why she says no, and that's why they do that. So yeah, and Daniel starts whipping on him, so he's defending his lady love, who he barely knows, and they put her on the carriage, and she's sleeping, and wakes up, and Daniel's driving. No, wait.
Yeah,
so
she wakes up. Okay, she wakes up, and the camp has gone without her, and she's like, "Oh, whoa, we're in the middle of nowhere," and he's like, "But that's okay. You're with us, and we're nice," and she's like, "Oh yeah, you are nice." And then they make their way into like the Frankenstein castle, and they just Daniel just sits down, and then 2 seconds later he just entirely falls in, like sweeping the tablecloth off of the table. Just I thought that was funny. He just entirely goes in and crumples in. It's funny.
Well, they went to this is the castle in Frankenstein, and strangely, and I think this is the same place from the end of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman.
Yeah, because there is just a canonical ice cave in the castle that the monster always finds himself back to.
It's glacier ice. Don't
ask this time
me how
they find the Wolfman too. Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. They find the Wolfman 2 there as well. It's funny, they just got thrown right back into the ice cave after the end of the Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Just like the Tiki Mask from the Backyardigans episode, where they're in Hawaii, and the volcano goddesses didn't like the Tiki Mask, and they throw it up and it goes right back to where it was. Same with the biggest pearl in all of Hawaii, and I think it was like a bunch of flowers or something. No, that was the thing that got him out of it. Shoot, I don't remember the third gift, but they're just giving 3 gifts. The Backyardigans characters. It's a high tier episode.
So they are cooking using a fire. They're cooking the ice to melt it, and the Wolfman is in Wolfman form. And as soon as he gets a little bit of ice melting off of him, he transforms back into Larry Talbot, and he's like, "What is going on here? I'm doomed, and and you have awoken the curse again by."
He's like, "Well, I could transfer you into another body." And he's like, "Okay."
He's like, "What?" Yeah. He's been lied to before by doctors who told him that they could cure him and help him out, and he just buys it again.
Though this gets to some shenanigans later, but there are shenanigans happening right now because Aleva, right? You said
Alonka?
Alonka. Yeah, I didn't catch her name in the film, so she is just girl number 2 in this in my notes.
Right.
Or dancer girl.
Dancer
girl
girl.
number 2 was the second. I
call
wrote
it- just
dancer
call
girl
her
and then girl number 2 and then dancer girl for the rest of them.
Call her Dancing Queen in honor
Dancing
of
Queen.
Abba. There you go.
Dancing Queen likes Lawrence Talbot more than Daniel. Oh
And
no, betrayal.
Well, Lawrence, here's the thing. Lawrence, Neiman needs Daniel's help with the Frankenstein's monster because the tissues have been messed with frostbite. And he says, Larry, can you drive a carriage? And if you remember, he learned how to drive a carriage very well in Frankenstein Meets Wolfman.
And
So
then
he's
it fell on top of Maria.
Yeah. Oh, Maria. Yeah, Maria.
Maria
Ospenskaya.
Ospenskaya.
Yeah, very good. And so, but
The thing he does say after this confused me a lot. Apparently, Daniel then tells Neiman that he should take Larry's body. That he should take Larry's body.
He sees that she starts liking Larry, and it's like, why can't you put my brain into Larry's body?
So
You
that
know?
so that he can like her and him instead.
But
Who would ever want a werewolf curse?
Larry? Well, the curse is not in the body. The curse is in the brain, as we'll find out. Because one of the
well, he doesn't get his he doesn't get transferred to another body. So as far as we know, well, in order for that to be a solution, it would have to be a body thing.
Well,
we never get the lore of
do.
how a werewolf. Do you become a werewolf in your soul, or do you become a werewolf in your physical form?
It's a brain thing that tells you to turn, tells your body to turn.
That is actually a good question, worthy of further
yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
Sometime else.
That's true. Okay. So, but the reason why Ilonka and Larry start hitting it off is Larry doesn't start liking her first, because he's just like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm driving the carriage. How's it going?" And she starts liking him, and she wants him to smile, and he starts smiling, and it's starting to have an effect. But Daniel keeps seeing that Ilonka is spinning away. It's a love triangle going on here.
And
between them three.
some of that gets resolved later. They start doing some things to prepare for resurrecting Frankenstein's monster and stuff. They do get the dude who was one of the revenge guys, right? Who had recognized him.
He kidnaps the two other guys that he was looking for.
Yeah, the funny thing about this
and
scene
other guy.
is that they walk him over, and he's like, "I need you, come with me." And then he runs into an alley, and then they ambush him in this alley to capture him.
Yes.
All the guy had to do to foil that plan was just to run any other direction. They did not stop him from. They did not tell him to start running. They did not predict where exactly he would run. There were no cars on that road. Just run to the right instead of the left, and then you can't catch him.
Right.
Or he can run diagonally. Like, literally, it was just the caravan on that road. Like, if he wants to evade Dr. Neiman, you don't know where exactly he's gonna run. You can't predict that he will only run into the alley. And then why even run into an alley? You'll just be captured anyway.
Right. So so Neiman's got the two guys, and he starts telling them, "Well, maybe I'll take, the brain of the Wolfman and put it into your body, so you'll have the curse of the Wolfman." And then
I said that. I'm like, why?
We'll take your brain, sir, and put it into the Frankenstein's monster. It's musical chairs with brains again, and we really got that going in Ghost of Frankenstein. Remember, he was like, "Well, we could take the little girl's brain and put it inside, the Frankenstein's monster." It's like, no. But that again, we have to do.
Yeah, but
musical chairs
Dr.
with brains.
Neiman, they do all the things to prepare in order for him to get his epic goal of the subservience of life forms, horrific life forms under him.
Yes.
Which is, I guess, some sort of power fantasy that he it's built in his brain to want, I guess. Because it's
Maybe
like,
so.
wouldn't you be horrified? Just a little bit, you know? It's like, oh, dude, this dude is doing cool stuff with making a new human being from nothing that is previously, in well-known news, terrorized people.
Yes. So
he's got bad blood. He got the villain blood.
When does Larry turn for the first time? I think that Neiman is taking too long with getting all the preparations ready, and so
yeah.
Larry
okay. Here's the thing.
turns.
With the drama, Dan tells the dancer girl that Larry is a werewolf, and she's immediately like, "No, he's not. You're lying to me. You're just jealous. You're ugly. I hate you." Previously, one of the first things that she said was, "I like you." So she immediately flips to "I hate you," which is funny and a bit childish, and then she starts running away, and he's like, "Oh, woe is me that I am a hunchback," and he starts whipping the monster on the table prone.
Yeah, this is all your fault.
Why? Why does he do that?
Because if there was no Frankenstein monster around, then they wouldn't want to, try to have Larry Talbot around.
It's just
I don't know.
But yeah, one of the things in this movie that's just a pain is that the Wolfman is just allowed to escape. They're working so much on Frankenstein's monster that they forget entirely about the Wolfman can
Absolutely.
turn.
They're like, you need to. He's so impatient. He's like, why? You're taking too long, Doctor. And he actually turns into a werewolf and goes and he kills somebody.
And then now she catches on and she's like, oh, this is terrible. He told me the entire rhyme. Daniel told me, oh, this is horrific. You actually do that? And he's like, well, the only way, because this is taking too long, is you have to kill me with silver bullet. So now the dancing woman is just a blacksmith.
Right.
She literally makes silver bullets in a montage.
Okay, if you remember in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, silver bullets didn't kill Larry Talbot. The moon landed on him and he just pops right back up to life. So, but here's what she says. She said that the silver bullets had to be fired from a gun by the person
the one who loves
and understands you. And I'm like,
the one who understands.
That's some
But why does she
nonsense.
have to make the bullets? Because she's just a blacksmith now? She's just making the silver bullets in the middle of the wherever.
She spent at the very beginning of when they're making her character. She spent some points.
She's not a blacksmith.
She spent points on proficiency in blacksmith, so she gets to roll an extra D10.
She went to the I don't remember the name, but it's just like the Elden Ring new game. There's like this mother character who's like the something mother who can like just delete your stats and allow you to reallocate them. And so she just went to there and allocated it all in blacksmith.
Right. But okay, you know okay, this is what I thought of when they had that little part where she says, you have to be killed by somebody who understands you and loves you or something. It reminded me of Werewolf of London. You remember where it said, the werewolf always kills the one who loves it best.
Yeah. That's definitely.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense there, but how? Okay, let's say somebody else grabs the gun from her and shoots Larry. It won't have an effect, but then they hand the gun to her and she pulls the trigger and it works. That's some metaphysical nonsense. They're trying to be romantic with it. It doesn't make any sense. Did you notice that when Larry went out and killed, the inspector found the body of the person killed by the werewolf and looked at the neck.
And so now the police are on it. They are arriving.
Instantly. Watch this. Remember? They're looking down at the neck and go, looks like his throat been torn out. And they go, werewolf. And they're all like, werewolf. I don't know, werewolf. Let's look for him. It's like they're so dying to start up a torch, a torch and pitchfork mob society again, since the last movie. And they just instantly, they're like, we've got to go. And they start going around the countryside looking for werewolves.
New thing is that they did not establish a police force until now.
No,
they didn't.
The villagers are so bored.
They at least did that in Son of Dracula.
Yeah.
But they're just like, oh, werewolves exist. Remember I was talking about like how long it takes to discover that there's a werewolf? They discover there's a werewolf immediately.
Instantly.
Yeah,
they're like, there's got to be a werewolf.
Is it an improvement?
look, this movie already, quote, wasted 30 minutes.
Yeah, if you can
on
tell
Dracula.
from some of my tone is just like some of these just out of left field moments, like the dancer lady becoming a blacksmith. It becomes to the point of hilarity.
Well, the mob is starting to form, and they're gonna figure out that there's experiments going on in Dr. Neiman's old laboratory.
Because it happened there just like a couple days ago.
Yeah, they're getting
when Frankenstein
closer.
meets the Wolfman.
They're getting close. Yeah, well, no, it was actually years. It was a couple years before the way they talk about it.
Yeah, but who knows?
But for us, it was last week.
For us, it was a couple weeks ago.
It was
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Yeah. So they are gonna go to Neiman's lab and mess with that. But Neiman's like, I'm going to wake up the Frankenstein's monster now. But Larry is like, I'm gonna turn. You waited
yeah.
too
And then
long.
he attacks him, and then there's a bunch of stuff going on. I don't remember it.
Well, no.
Let's just
the
sum it
werewolf-
all up.
The witch, the Wolfman, Larry Talbot, is changing, and Ilonka is gonna follow him and shoot him, and Larry bites Ilonka and kills her, and then she shoots with the gun, and they die in each other's arms in the mist. Daniel sees the whole thing and gets absolutely mad. He goes in there to kill Neiman. Doesn't kill Neiman. Frankenstein's monster picks him up
And throws him out
through the window, and that's the aforementioned close call that J. Carroll Nash had.
door sounds.
Daniel's dead. Frankenstein's monster gets a chance to lumber around carrying Boris Karloff, which is funny because Boris Karloff.
Okay, and then
was
we
the
get
monster.
to the end of the movie that I was saying is just why is his only real
Don't go
use.
over there. Quicksand.
Hold on.
No, sorry,
hold on.
sorry.
So
Too quick.
yeah, the cops are there. The mob is there. They make a big firewall, not the digital kind, the
Right.
Windows. No, the with the brushes and stuff, to make him go back. But because Frankenstein's monster is so dumb, he runs into a very conspicuous pit of quicksand.
Yes.
Or like a bog or something. Apparently it's
Neiman-
quicksand because
Neiman
Neiman
keeps
says
saying,
it's quicksand.
Don't go there. Quicksand.
Don't go there. And then
Quicksand.
he
Don't go
doesn't
there.
get off. He doesn't get off or anything. He just succumbs to his fate in the quicksand. Like
Bloop.
literally, all you had to do is run around it, and then you're like home free. It's hard to run in the woods,
And
and
like
you probably
most of
can't
his
run for
movies,
too
the
long.
The second the monster's dead.
But he gets a quicksand.
The end.
How are they gonna begin the next movie? I'm dead serious. How are they gonna begin the next movie? Reset. Dracula comes back.
I don't know. We shall
just-
we
They
shall
just
see.
run in and succumb to the fate, and then the movie ends.
I heard Lon Chaney Jr. is in House of Dracula, and Dracula's in House of Dracula. I thought,
but we have
they're both dead.
We
aren't
have the two mummy movies next before the House of Dracula.
Yeah, we might need a little bit of a.
So I am in like
we need a
bit
trip.
of suspense at this point.
We need a trip to Mapleton, Massachusetts, aka stupid Americanville, for like a little bit before we get back to House of Dracula. We need a break from the stupidity with some other stupidity.
I'm gonna tell you
to prepare us for the stupidity. We need to get stupid.
that the very least we talk about the ape being crazy. That had like one crazy thing. I am like, there's
You're
a whole
right.
lot of things.
You're right. But if you
This
want,
is the
if
first
you want
time that a
crazy-
film baffled me with how much like stupid moments that there are.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get really stupid in 3 or 4 episodes because we got the Ape Man and Return of the Ape Man, monogram pictures with apes in it. So and that's got to be really bad. So that's some Bela Lugosi badness, for us there. Are you missing your mummy? if you're missing,
no, because it's time for the ghost or curse of the mummy.
No, the mummy's ghost to the curse of the mummy's pancreas. No.
Yeah, by the way, we had to rearrange a little bit because we accidentally set them up in a wrong year. But I would have made the mistake.
Well, they came out in the same year. I mean, far apart. But chronologically speaking, they are the mummy's ghost is first, and the mummy's curse is the last mummy movie we'll ever see until Abbott and Costello meet the mummy, and then after that,
yeah, same thing with the Invisible Man.
Truly dead, yeah. And then we'll have to wait until 1999 before we can see Universal.
Which, by the way, I want to restate how much the Invisible Man means to me. Like, I didn't say the word. I don't think I said the word means to me in the Invisible Man's Revenge episode. But the franchise means to me. It means a lot to me, especially like just my history with reading the book is a great thing. Watching the movie, first horror movie, and I was like, this is pretty good. Same thing with War of the Worlds. I'm gonna be excited when we do that. Isn't that late 40s or early 50s?
That's 53.
53.
I think. So that
next
is,
season.
That is not this season, but next season. Yeah.
Be prepared.
Next season has got some stinkers and some bangers.
Yeah, but I just those
this season's
two,
got some bangers.
And if we ever did William Sleater adapted movies, because like William
there are
Sleater
some
books,
William Sleater adaptations, but they were made for TV, so they're okay.
I'm like, if we have an Interstellar Pig,
there isn't. I don't think
card game. I will make one. We'll play it. We'll play it. Put it on a channel.
I'd have to see if there are some William Sleater adaptations on YouTube.
But yeah,
I'll find
The Invisible Man and War of the Worlds, Great Illustrated Classics were the stuff I read, and William Sleater. That was my sci-fi. That's my core sci-fi.
That was your start.
I reread those quite a bit. I just nothing like them. Nothing like them. Nothing like all of those movies. Books. Sorry. Movies are good too, but just the Invisible Man series of Universal monster movies mean a lot to me, and I wanted to emphasize that.
Oh, Frankenstein! You read Frankenstein before?
I did read the Frankenstein book. Yes. Yep, so yeah, just those things mean a lot to me. This is technically like the end of the Frankenstein series as well. So
we do see Frankenstein's monster again in like I said, in House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, and then after that, not a lot. You know what means a lot to me? This podcast. I mean, if
what means a lot is our time, because we've been recording for quite a while.
Well, we dipped into the History Channel world and A&E biography.
I was like, I wanted to do some research into stuff. Like, I didn't hear about the Memex before, and I was like, what's the Memex?
I haven't either. I mean, I knew some of the things you talked about, but some of them were very eye-opening. I was educated.
Yeah, eye-opening.
I'm smart now. Thank you, son. But this podcast means a lot to me because it is me and my son talking about what we like. And relating to each other. We just happen to be talking about science fiction, horror, and fantasy movies. We could talk about anything we want. It's really honestly about how we relate to each other and our journey in life through what makes being a nerd fun. And honestly, that's our podcast in a nutshell. If you've enjoyed what we're talking about and how we relate to each other, our chemistry, if that's really why you came here, or you really like, science fiction movies and us talking about it, those are both great reasons to hang out with us. I want to thank you for hanging out with us today.
And if you are missing some Universal horror action, horror we've been starting to do the mini-sode thing where we can check out a bunch of tiny little horror stuffs that we missed out on in the 40s, and we were like, what on earth is this? Let's just review it in 15 minutes and see what it is. I'm looking forward to doing some more of those, but we're gonna have
I
Revenge
do.
of the Zombie, which was like a John Carradine movie monogram, I believe. Stuff like that.
He did quite a bit of monogram. I have a plan to also do some silent comedy action movies as well, starring Buster Keaton.
We haven't done any Buster Keaton busting the house down.
Literally
a house falls on him.
He does a lot of busting houses down. I also
believe an entire house falls on him and he stays alive.
And he stays alive. So
let's send all of you to the Panopticon. Go back to Panopticon. Lunch time is over. Stop beating everyone up at lunchtime, which is the only time they beat up each other in the movies.
Back in your cell.
Orange is the new black.
Back in your cell. The only way you're gonna get out is if lightning strikes it and nobody's watching.
Yeah, back to Panopticon. Lightning will strike again, and you'll be able to escape back for another episode of Cinematic Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. What are they saying? Like the animes. Jikan. Cinematic Fantastic. Don't miss it.
Who's don't miss it?
Okay, that's more Italian. That's a. We'll cut that.
Don't miss it. That's terrible.
Thanks for listening to Cinematic Fantastic Podcast. Click here and here for some more excellent content. Hope you'll enjoy it. See you soon.